There's a lot going on in the world right now. I feel like the news is like dropping into the iciest refrozen mogul field. We're left with bad news, but never any way to understand why something has happened or how we can have an impact. Once a month, we're going to follow up on the headlines that momentarily captivated our outdoor community, but the rest of the media was too busy to follow up on. Our new series, And Then What, runs after the show across all episodes for about a month. Tune in or not, but it's here if you need it. The Diaries is supported by never quitting on a bad day. Remember that time when you helped us carry out a dying man's wish and got Paul's boots across the Appalachian Trail? All 2,190 miles relay style. And during that process, we learned from the hiking community that you never quit on a bad day. When things go haywire, you just keep going, you regain your composure, you keep walking. And that has been like a mantra for us over the last few years because there have been some bad days where we weren't sure how we'd make the Diaries work. But an amazing thing has happened. We asked for your help. Could you support the show? Could you keep it going for the next generation of people out there chasing dreams? And many of you did by becoming Diaries Plus members. Across all our platforms, we have 100,000 subscribers. Right now, there are a little more than 1% of you that have stepped up and said, I care about this project. I will power it. It's meant something to me. But what could we do if that number went to 3%? Or to 5%? What kind of stories could we tell? What kind of work could we do inside of our community? Could we do more Paul's Boots? Every time someone joins this global community, we think we can do more. We can give more. We can try harder because you are all behind us. And we know we can keep walking even when we have a bad day. So thank you. Please consider joining Diaries Plus. The link is in the show notes and on our website. We'll keep walking.
What's up, Fitz? Were you able to climb this week?
Yeah, we are on spring break, and we got to go to Smith Rock with dear old friends. The place is super special to me. Like, my kids are starting to, like, kind of get better at it, where we can have, like, a real day of climbing, I would say. Not that we don't have real days of climbing, but where it felt like I'm kind of tired right now. So that's good. My feet are sore. I think the kids are going to be tired, but they climb, like, 510s at Smith, which is legit. So it's cool. It was rad. And it's a special place to me, so it's cool to show them around.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, especially in my history, like climbing can be such a individual endeavor, but then you start going through life and you realize the people you surround yourself with, it has such a big impact on like how you experience the sport and like how you climb, you know?
Yeah.
You know, whether you get it from your friends or like you from your kids, the mutual support you get, it makes a big difference.
Oh yeah, I mean, like that's like obviously the world I came out of. So I've had like multiple times, but you know, I think as I've gotten older, like it's interesting is like fewer people that I'm friends with. A lot of people have stopped climbing. They do other things. Everyone's outdoors, but it's just like it's funny. It's like one of those things that people kind of give up on sometimes. But there was a period in Seattle where you know it was just a gym session. It was every Tuesday night, and there was we had it going for like 5 or 6 years. Where I don't know, it could be as small as like 5 people, but oftentimes it was like 15 to 20 people. We'd all go together. There was like inside that group, there was, we got dubbed the Strong Tuesday Dads, the STDs. There were like 5 of us who were like, are super tight and, you know, I'm still very close to, but it kind of all went away at the pandemic. Like some people moved away, it kind of ended and I miss it because it was like a really important thing. It just like kept me so connected to my friends and to the sport I love, and it was rad. Yeah.
It's funny because, like, right when that ended for you, I was moving to Hawaii, and I didn't know anyone. It was a very kind of, you know, transitional period of my life. And it was also, like you said, I mean, it was during COVID, so it was kind of hard to meet people in a new place. But there was, like, a rad bouldering gym that had just opened its doors back up to the public, and I would go, like, you know, every morning. And this was a time when like people were either working remotely or they were unemployed. So this was like, you know, there was a big crew there every morning. I'll just say that. And the vibes were always high. And that's where like I met a ton of friends. And like 4 years later living in Hawaii, like I've become very close with a lot of those people.
So I'm guessing we're going to talk about climbing today. What is the story you have for us, Marco?
Yeah. So this is a story of a group of women who have worked really hard to ensure that they could foster a climbing community of their own. So climbers at Utah State University have held Women's Climb Night at their school gym every Tuesday for the last few years. And this event is essentially like an open door invitation for women and non-binary folks to try climbing within a supportive environment. Here's Jessica, Meredith, and Kate. They've all managed the climbing gym and helped pioneer Women's Climb Night.
We had a pretty good group of non-binary climbers that would come attend, which was really awesome. We started seeing more people of color show up. And Utah State is a very, very, very white university. The demographics are very skewed. It was just really important to all of us to see people from every background.
I think it offered them a chance to be able to see that there were people like them who also enjoyed the same things that they did. Because you would have people who didn't come any other day of the week, and it was just a spot that people can practice the sport that they love.
And it also made climbing so much more accessible because although there was like such a wide range of abilities of people climbing on Women's Night, I always found that there was a lot of beginners on Women's Night because people felt more comfortable trying it out for the first time on that night.
Jessica, Meredith, and Kate passed the baton to one another, building on each other's ideas to keep Women's Climb Night alive. And right when it was clicking, Women's Climb Night at Utah State went away.
This is what happens when students are inspired to foster a community, a meaningful ritual for climbers to keep growing, and why we have to fight to keep those spaces alive.
I'm Marco Seiler Gonzalez.
I'm Fitz Cahal, and you're listening to the Dirtbag Diaries. All right, so Marco, Utah State University climbing gym. This is a gym on a public school campus. Why did they feel like Women's Climb Night was necessary? Like, how did it begin?
Well, the event itself was sort of in response to the culture that the gym had provided. As you know, like every climbing gym is different. The one at Utah State has its own kind of physical limitations. Here's Jessica. She managed the gym in 2021 and 2022.
It's kind of like a corridor. So they've got bouldering on the left-hand side and sport on the right-hand side. The sport walls are, I want to say 48, 50 feet tall. And then the bouldering walls are like 15 feet tall. And they just go back a few feet. It's a pretty small area. So there was always a little bit of a capacity on how many people could climb. But when I first started working there, I don't have a better way to describe it than gym bro-y for a multitude of reasons, I would imagine. One, I was the only other female who worked at the climbing wall at that point. All my other coworkers were male, besides Jill, who started the event. And she worked once a week. And also, it's inside of our broader campus rec gym where people are coming to lift weights. And it's like kind of your stereotypical gym bro. And they'd come check out the climbing wall. And so that's kind of the community that I saw the most by far, especially for the first year. Okay,
so gym bros. I'm familiar. Hopefully I've never been one, but could have happened. I don't know. It sounds like the gym was a product of its environment.
Exactly. And like Jessica said, it's a pretty small area. They have a max capacity of like 20 people. So, if the gym is full, you would have to wait until someone leaves for you to get in. And they actually had a running spreadsheet to keep track of the ratio of men to women at the gym. Their data showed that the gym was male-dominated throughout the day. And unfortunately, there were some instances of harassment that made some women feel unsafe. Meredith actually took a break from climbing after having a bad experience there.
I had gone for like the third time I was there with my roommate, and I had a guy come up to me after like 2 climbs, and basically the entire rest of like the 2 hours just like follow me around, offering me like advice, eventually asked me out. It's just like a really awkward scenario, and I don't know, that happens to a lot of people. It's a pretty common experience there. So I don't know, it just made me so anxious, and like I never want to experience that ever again. So I just kind of didn't really go.
Meredith's brother eventually convinced her to take a job at the climbing gym, where she met Jessica and learned about Women's Climb Night.
I feel like I kind of just was like, oh wait, I actually really do enjoy like this atmosphere. I do enjoy climbing. And working there, I was able to meet some of my best friends and just some really incredible people that made me realize like, oh, like it's not that bad. It's not that scary. But I also ended up discovering Women's Night after I started, and I ended up working there for a little while.
According to Jessica, Meredith's experience was not unique. I mean, once they started running Women's Climb Night every Tuesday, they kind of quickly saw more and more new climbers coming into the gym.
I felt like it really started changing as we started investing in our Women's Night program. We started seeing a lot of people who had never climbed before, and we started seeing a lot of people from the queer community and from like, we got a group of sorority girls who would come every Tuesday. And so we just started seeing a really diverse audience coming to the wall. And eventually that spread outside of women's nights as that community started to grow. It definitely took some time and was very gradual, but it was really neat to watch the progression and watch the audience for Utah State's climbing wall grow over the years. This is like, we still had the gym bros, like they were always there and they were always climbing, but it was really cool to see other people mixed in with that demographic.
So if this was like a private gym, Women's Climb Night sounds like a pretty solid strategy for getting more people into the sport, participating. Not to play devil's advocate here, but how does Women's Climb Night work on a public school campus? I mean, were they barring men from entering the gym during the event? Because you can't do that, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, barring anyone from the gym based on their gender would be a Title IX violation. And, when they were trying to get Women's Climb Night off the ground, Jessica says that they faced a lot of pushback from men who would basically just ignore the event and climb anyways.
We can't tell men that they can't climb because we're a state-funded university. And so a lot of times you would end up with men that still decided to climb. And it was always really unfortunate because you could feel the energy change and you could see women start to get uncomfortable. There was one man in particular that decided he wanted to climb on Women's Night, and he would he would pick a female climber and follow her around and beta spray at her. And so it was just like, it was frustrating because it felt like what we were trying to create wasn't working. So by the time I took it over, I was fed up and I was sick of trying to have those conversations with people that didn't want to listen when I knew that there's science that backs up why these nights are important.
Jessica seems pretty tenacious.
For sure. I mean, giving up on Women's Climb Night was not an option for her. And, managing the gym throughout the week, she saw that it was pretty evident on why Women's Night was so important.
I got a lot of the winter men's nights comments. And the thing that was always in my head then are the amount of nights that I would work on a Thursday or a Monday where it was just men. There was never a night that I worked that there were only female climbers in that gym, which is exactly why that space needed to be carved out. But I know that it was briefly pitched to do men's Mondays in an effort to keep women's nights. And if you can believe it, no one took to it. It didn't go very far. No one actually wanted it. So it's always just, they need to be contrarian.
As much as the pushback frustrated her, she also had faith that people would better understand the event if they just had the right information. So over the next summer, Jessica worked with the school's Inclusion Center to find a new approach.
We decided that we were going to design some materials. And so some of those were stickers. Some of those were info sheets about women in the outdoors and the statistics about male-dominated sports. And then I took the lead on creating a pamphlet that went over our reasoning for Women's Night. It included positive feedback from people that had attended Women's Nights and how they felt like it helped them personally. And then we also just went into the statistics again of this is why, this is how it helps. And so starting in fall, the Inclusion Center would come and they would table in front, and they had different materials for the inclusion center, but like also contributing to the climbing wall. And we just kind of tag teamed it a little bit. And we were able to put like in partnership with the inclusion center and things like that on the pamphlet. And it was honestly amazing how much that partnership and those materials changed the acceptance of Women's Night. Like I immediately started getting way less pushback. It like was mind-boggling almost just how quickly it kind of turned around. But it was also really motivating. It's like, okay, we're on the right track. Like we're getting things done.
Jessica's strategy was paying off. By the time Meredith took over as manager, there was a clear system to work with men who came to the gym during Women's Climb Night.
There are some guys on the USU climbing team that definitely did not enjoy it very much at first, but then after you pull out all the statistics, you have all these people like explaining to them why we need that night, and we would sit them down and we'd show them all of that. They eventually got it, and I think they're pretty pro Women's Night now, which is super cool.
So it sounds like most guys got on board. What about the event itself? Like what did it offer that was not available the rest of the week?
So speaking with students there, it sounds like the event offered a really supportive space for climbers to push their limit and engage with the sport with new people.
I remember when I was trying to do my first V5, I was nervous to do it any other time. So I would always try it at Women's Climb Night, and people would be so supportive and they'd be cheering me on, giving me tips, everything.
This is Ellie. She's a junior at Utah State.
I just think it was much more inviting for beginners, I think, was the main thing. A lot of the girls that went, it was like their first time climbing. They were too scared to go otherwise. So I think that's probably was the biggest draw, was for beginners who just wanted to get into it but were too nervous to otherwise.
So the draw of Women's Climb Night actually had a spillover effect into the outdoor recreation events. On top of managing the gym, Meredith also helped guide the outdoor climbing trips. She says that the popularity from Women's Climb Night led to a wave of enthusiasm for the outdoor excursions.
I am pretty sure this was the first overnight women's trip to actually go through, because people just wouldn't sign up for them. They would never fill up, so they wouldn't send them out. I think the word just got out more. A lot of the women who went were people that I had taught in my regular climbing class. One of the gals was on the climbing team the year before. Most of the women who went there had gone to Women's Climb Night, so that was super cool to see.
Ellie was one of those Women Climb Night alums who joined the outdoor trip.
So on the last day, we had a little extra time before we had to leave. So we went to the top. It's called Bath Rock. It overlooks most of City of Rocks. So we went up there and we did a tea party with all of us, which was super fun. That was one of my favorite parts of the trip.
It was so cute, and listened to some French music. It was just, I don't know, it was just such a cool experience. Just seeing all of them outside, just really loving it, just having such a good time.
We had croissants, and we all just hung out and enjoyed our time and looked out into the City of Rocks. It was super awesome, super pretty.
I love how they just took this and made it their own, tea party on the mountain. That's awesome. It does really seem like I don't know, if I've got two little boys, but if I had a little girl, this would be something I hope would exist for her,
Totally. I mean, Jessica and Meredith really felt like Women's Climb Night could be this kind of legacy event going forward, right? But all of that came into question once a certain bill started making its way through the Utah State House last year.
Well, the Senate also passed another controversial bill today, which looks to pare back the role of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in government institutions. House Bill 261 would ban the DEI from making people sign statements or attend trainings that promote some sort of differential treatment based on someone's identity. Republicans argue that the bill makes campus equitable, while Democrats say it will do the opposite.
HB 261, also known as the Equal Opportunities Initiative. It basically threatens to cut funding from any public institution that supports DEI initiatives. In other words, student resources like LGBTQ centers, women's resource centers, Black cultural centers, or other programs that support students of color on campus. Those are all on the chopping block under this bill.
So the law is called the Equal Opportunities Initiative, but in effect, the ramifications of the law are essentially the exact opposite.
Yeah, this is like a pretty common tactic that politicians use in lawmaking. No one knows this better than Caroline Gleich. We've had her on the show before. She's a professional skier, political activist, and she ran for a Utah Senate seat last year as a Democrat.
I do pay attention to our Utah legislative session. However, it is 44 days long, and last year they passed 800 bills. This year, closer to 900. So even for someone who's really into politics and paying attention, it is so much happening all at once that it's like the flooding. You just can't keep up with it all. The first thing that comes to mind is just how deceptive the name is and how these lawmakers have become so good at taking something that is actually doing the opposite of what the bill says it is, but they make it sound like palatable and even positive. Yeah, it's really frustrating because you try to do the right thing and to be like I'm an activist, this is a big part of what I do, but you just can't even keep track. And then it takes you just to untangle what the bill actually means. You need to have a lot more time than they give us.
Jessica was actually finishing up her last semester of school as HB 261 was going through committee, and she knew Women's Climb Night would be in danger if the bill were to go through.
Everybody hikes. Period. No matter what sport you're doing out there, whether you're running, whether you're backpacking, whether you're getting to a crag, you hike. You hike to get there. And that's what connects us and unifies us all. And that is pretty rad. Who hasn't had a great day of connecting with a friend, a fellow family member, even a stranger through time on the trail? Oboz Footwear knows nothing in the world unifies the human nature connection more than the shared love of hiking. They create footwear that delivers unmatched fit, unrivaled feel, and exceptional performance for all kinds of hikes. They give you the tools you need to get out there and really love hiking. Since 2007, Oboz has planted trees for shoes sold. And as a certified B Corp, Oboz balances profit with their impact on the planet and the people that their brand touches. To find your next pair of footwear, check out obozfootwear.com/lovehiking. And thanks so much for supporting the show. You're making inspiration for people's next hike possible. I like to think I'm dialed, and then I forget the sunscreen. Seriously, I'll have every other piece of gear I need, and then I'll get blasted by the sun. And even when I do, when I'm out in the mountains, I often sweat it off, and I end up coming home kind of rocked. So when Turns, a skincare company, approached me, I was intrigued. I'm not really a put things on your face kind of person, apparently. But they were telling me about Mayday, a product that helps your skin recover when you get a little too much sun. And mostly I dug the story because Turns is led by Eduardo, who's a chemical discoverer. And that means finding compounds in nature that might work to create better products. Eduardo was also a lifelong surfer, diver, and fisherman, so he knew what it was like to be out in the sun. So with Turns, he combined two of his life's passions and is creating products made with natural ingredients derived from the ocean. In this case, kelp. Turns is made in the US, it's vegan and cruelty-free. After sun should not be an afterthought, especially for me. Use the code DIRTBAG to get 25% off your first order at turns.com. Turns, like the bird. We'll put a link in the show notes, and you can try out Turns for yourself.
I'd known that it was being talked about and that it had been proposed and that it was going through the House and things. And it was all just kind of really tense because we understood the implications of that. And well before it passed, I had read through the law and just ended up going through. I was in some sort of policy class that semester. So it was very at the forefront anyways, but it hadn't actually passed. So we were all kind of hopeful that it would pass.
The bill quickly made its way through the state legislature. It was signed into law by Utah's governor in January of last year, and the fallout was felt swiftly across the state.
And some new developments tonight. The University of Utah is one of many different colleges and universities across the state shutting down their LGBTQ resource centers by the end of this week.
Yeah, this is in response to a new law that's going into effect on July 1st. Amanda Gilbert standing by live for us at the University of Utah to tell us more about the new law and the consequences. Amanda?
Yeah, a lot of this change happening at campuses like the U is because of House Bill 261. And basically what this means is centers focused on historically marginalized students, or DEI, they're being replaced with or transitioning to centers for all students.
Utah State shut down their Inclusion Center, which was providing resources for Women's Climb Night.
Like, it was really disappointing for a lot of us because we had hoped that, like, there are ways to change the wording and the accessibility of these things to make it so that it fits the law. And so it was really disappointing to see the absolute lack of effort to save anything from university administration. And so once the Inclusion Center got disbanded, I remember talking to Meredith, just being like, I don't know how long it's going to be till they come for Women's Night.
Meredith was managing the gym at the time, unsure whether or not the new law would affect Women's Climb Night.
I was originally told that they were like not going to touch Women's Night. They didn't tell me that it was like going away until it was like the last night of Women's Night. And I was having a meeting with my boss, and she was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, like tonight's going to be the last night of Women's Night." We like sat down with the lawyer and went over the bill again and decided that we can't keep it. So I was originally told that it would stay, so it was kind of a shock.
Meredith called everyone she could to join the last Women's Climb Night on campus.
Everyone was so sad. The last night, it was really sad. Like, I had so many people come up to me and just be like, "Is there anything we can do?" And just like hugging me and just, I don't know, many tears were shed. It's really devastating.
So, from what Caroline said earlier, it took just a few weeks for this bill to be debated and then go through committee to be voted on in the House and state senates and then signed by the Utah governor. Like, all of it happened really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a total shock that Utah would pass this bill. I mean, just in the last 3 years, at least 13 states have passed anti-DEI laws. And keep in mind, this was one of nearly 600 bills that were passed during Utah's legislative session last year. So, I don't know, it's just hard to give lawmakers the benefit of the doubt when it comes to how thought through this bill actually was. Again, here's Caroline.
These are the kind of lawmakers and legislators that say they want small government. They want freedom. They want to limit the role that government plays in our lives. Yet this is some of the most micromanaging, invasive legislation that I can think of. To me, it's like the total opposite of freedom, and it's really regressive. I think it's really chilling when you have the government coming in and telling, especially universities, what they can and cannot do. This is the stuff of dictatorships and authoritarian regimes, and going after schools and going after women in particular. It is like a way to crush a movement. It's a way to crush people's hopes and dreams, and it's a way to keep them submissive, subservient, and to make them, to keep them under control.
So Kate is now the current manager of the climbing gym, and she says that they tried to host an unofficial women's night. They got a group chat going, try to encourage the same women to show up, but it wasn't really the same.
Honestly, most of those Tuesday nights just still turned out looking like every other night, which was kind of disappointing. There sometimes would be more girls showing up, which was exciting, but it usually just looked like every other night.
Despite Kate's encouragement, the gym capacity made it harder to get everyone in.
It gets very crowded very quickly. So most nights of the weeks, it's very busy and there's a wait list to get in and stuff. Because if we try to make it an unofficial thing, there's going to be other people that are coming and going, and it will be harder to get the whole group of girls in to climb at once.
Did they like, obviously it's hard. There's a lot of turnover. Like, it's hard to always know how to navigate higher education. Did Kate feel like there were any other options to try to keep Women's Night alive?
I mean, the options were slim, and it's a big deal when the university no longer recognizes or supports your efforts, you know? I mean, for one, there's the money issue. Meredith told me that they won't have any funding going forward for their women's outdoor climbing excursions. But this law also just, like, alienates students. Again, here's Jessica.
I think for a lot of people, that bill felt like a slap in the face. And like, we do not care about your struggles. And like, I'm personally still very privileged. Like, I come from a family that had been to college. Like, I had the ability to get a lot of scholarships, and I'm white. Like, I still was in a very privileged position to be able to take on things like that and to start women's nights. And those are privileges that a lot of climbers and that a lot of budding climbers don't get, and they don't have. And that's the point of having those programs through a university, is to make those accessible to people.
You know, one thing that strikes me, a climbing gym manager on a lot of campuses is a pretty intermittent position. Like, it's a mantle that gets passed down from, like oftentimes students or someone who's just graduated. In this case, it went from Jessica to Meredith to Kate just in the last few years. There was a lot of institutional knowledge that made something like Women's Climb Night a really popular and successful event that meant a lot to people. But it just seems like it kind of just got wiped away, that this law just kind of erased that.
Yeah, I mean, especially for Jessica, who is just about to graduate, you know, seeing all of that work that she did to improve Women's Climb Night, it's pretty demoralizing to see it shut down overnight.
It was really devastating. One, because I knew the community that we had built. And so to hear that it had been like shut down and banned completely, it was just gutting, especially knowing all of the work that went into it on the back end from myself and from all of my coworkers, and even my coworkers who aren't directly involved, all of the support that they gave to that. Having it just gone in like 10 seconds is brutal. And it was also just hard seeing the reaction from the climbers and seeing how devastated they were, and knowing that we had created a safe space for them that is now not existent.
The news spread about the closure of Women's Climb Night. I mean, publications like Climbing Magazine and the Salt Lake Tribune ran stories on it. But despite the publicity, there wasn't much hope for a change in policy. It was heartbreaking for students, especially Kate, who found climbing through Women's Night.
There were just so many people there that were so willing to like teach you about climbing, to help you through it, and then to cheer you on. Like, the amount of times that I would climb like a V0 or a V1 and people would cheer for me, like, that's just what would happen on Women's Nights. Everybody was very encouraging. And so that's what made me want to like keep going back. And then working Women's Nights, that was like easily my favorite shift of the week, because everybody was just so happy to be there. We'd play fun music, and it's just like the best night of the week, honestly.
Then, in the middle of their spring semester, the director of campus recreation at Utah State got in touch with Kate.
We heard that somebody read one of the articles that was published and reached out to the school about donating money to reserve the wall Tuesday nights. And as far as I know, it's just an anonymous donor, not associated with the school or anything, which is pretty cool. So me and then one of my friends, we started the club, the Women's Adventure and Outdoor Club, so that the club can be the one who is reserving the wall Tuesday nights. And it took us a while to get the logistics set up and everything. But then last night was our first Women's Night, and we had a lot of people show up, which was really exciting.
That's awesome. So Women's Climb Night is back.
It's back. I mean, you know, granted, it's no longer funded by the school, but that way they can avoid the legal trouble that was shutting them down in the first place. You know, but regardless, Kate is now able to build on the foundation that Jessica and Meredith and others helped build. As for Jessica and Meredith, they're continuing the work that they started at Utah State. Meredith is leading a new chapter of the Women's Climbing Coalition in Logan. They hold like monthly events at Elevation Rock Gym. And Jessica is working at a climbing gym in Salt Lake City, working with several diversity and access initiatives within the gym. And while she's disappointed in the recent legislation in the state, she hasn't really lost her faith in the mission.
I hope these communities know that they belong in the outdoors and that they have a place and they can pass as many laws as they want. They're going to keep happening, and those communities are always going to be there. And I will always, always do my best to support them. And I know that we have so many amazing people in the community that are going to do the same thing. And I think that really is highlighted by the amount of attention that this random, like pretty small university in Utah has gotten so much attention from this little women's night that we had people attending. So it's been just incredible to see how far it's gotten. It's gone out of Utah. It's amazing.
So, Marco, Women's Climb Night, it's back. Like, will it be able to keep happening?
I mean, ideally, yes. But then again, no one totally knows. I think this private donor situation is a bit imperfect. I think all of it would be so much more simple if Women's Night could operate like it used to, where the school just supported it. But I think Women's Night it's an interesting creation. It's sort of rooted in time, right? Like everyone who participates in it, they won't be there in 2 or 4 years. You know, they'll have moved on. And so now that the university isn't directly involved, I think it'll be really up to the community to kind of like pass this event along and to keep it running.
Yeah. You know, it's every path has a start. And for me, climbing, my time outside, it's been this like super powerful teacher. That was a place that I learned about myself, that I learned about other people. And that path for me started like on a college trip with the UW Climbing Club. And so like I care about programs that provide that opportunity for people, that allows, you know, a person to sort of accidentally or serendipitously discover the joys and friendships that you can create doing challenging things together. Like I get that one might not care whether a college kid has a pathway to climb or whether they have the ability to have a women's climbing night at the gym. And I get that like I care irrationally about these like opportunities and like getting people outside. Like that, you know, I made my whole career off this, like, right? And I understand that maybe, you know, someone else might not care about that. They might not think this is that important. There's so many pressing issues facing our world. I know there are people who are like, why are my tax dollars being spent on it? But that said, it's like I take a step back and there's something that's important about this story that is harder to articulate. And I feel like it's something that's worth saying is that like Jessica, Meredith, Kate, and others, they made this thing. It's this doorway that sort of like led outward that people could use to discover something, to learn about themselves, to find the outdoors. And it meant a lot to them. And then they shared it with others. And those others passed it on to the next wave of students, and people spoke up for it. And that wave of students keeps carrying it forward, and they spoke up for it. And then they got told to stop, that their university could no longer support it. But they just kept figuring. They kept working towards a vision so that this small, simple experience that happened for 2 hours on a Tuesday night could still be there for like other students. And it could have been so easy to just shrug and say, well, I guess that's over, right? But they didn't. And I bet that if you out there, if you look around your world, there's probably something similar to Women's Climb Night. There's something that probably you care a lot about that maybe a few of your friends care a lot about. And that's something, it creates community. And when I listen to this story, I just say to myself, keep trying. Even if it's in imperfect circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, each of us might find what's happened at Utah State University important or why it matters for a different reason. But I think it's kind of just worth hearing directly from those climbers who made Women's Climb Night special in the first place and who are carrying it forward for the next generation.
I love Women's Climb Night because it provides a safe space for women to join together and learn something that's really hard. And we get to support each other. We get to feel good about ourselves together. and we get to feel strong together. And it's just a really awesome environment. And we get to do the things we love with people we love and who love us.
I love Women's Climb Night because it's comfortable.
I love Women's Climb Night because I already know the beta.
I like Women's Climb Night because it's a really supportive and encouraging environment, so I feel like I have confidence to try more difficult climbs.
I like Women's Climb Night because it's a chance to yap with the girlies.
I love Women's Climb because I get to climb with people who will hype me up.
I love Women's Climb Night because it's a way that I can socialize and I feel more confident sending things. It's just enables me to kind of shed my skin a little bit and get real.
I like Women's Climb Night because no matter your skill level or your comfort level, everybody is there to support and encourage you. I also like Women's Climb Night because we are all short as fuck.
I love Women's Climb Night because it gives me an opportunity to see faces I wouldn't see otherwise, and gives me a nice community of climbers to send with.
I love Women's Climb Night because I don't have to watch anyone try to flirt by campusing.
I love Women's Climb Night because when I come climbing, when it's just surrounded by women, I feel supported, encouraged, empowered, and honestly safe. The climbing community is wonderful, and I love being surrounded by the incredible women who are in it.
Thank you, Jessica, Meredith, and Kate, for sharing your stories. And thanks to all the students who shared why they love Women's Climb Night. Keep climbing and keep building community. I'm excited to share that I am back on the road doing some live events, and I will be in Colorado for a mini book tour celebrating States of Adventure, our book that came out last summer. Thursday, May 1st, I'll be at Neptune Mountaineering in Boulder, and on Friday, May 2nd, I'll be at Farrell in Denver. I might even have a special guest or two on Friday night. More info in the show notes or on our website, dirtbagdiaries.com. Space is limited, so please RSVP. Our stories come from friends of friends, and you, our community. If you have a compelling idea for a guest or a story lead, please give us a shout. You can email us at editor@ducktapethenbeer.com. Thanks for the folks who have recently become Diaries Plus members, and to those of you who continue to support. You're making the show available to everyone. Seriously, we would not be here without you. You are powering this. You're making it available to other people that need it right now. So thank you. We're going to carry this forward. I think we're going to do this together. If you can become a part of it, please consider joining Diaries Plus. To sign up, there's a link in the credits. Want another way to help? Write us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps others find the show. Music today from Jason Tyler Burton, Tigers in the Sky, Sun Shapes, Curio, and Roma 49. The tracks are courtesy of the artists or Track Club. Jacob Bain and Nice Kodo composed our theme song. You can find the artists at our website, dirtbagdiaries.com. This episode was produced by Marcos Seiler Gonzalez, Skylar Perwins, and me. It was mixed and edited by Cordelia Zars with incredible oversight from the one and only Becca Call. Illustration by Walker Call. I'm Fitz Call, and you've been listening to the Dirtbag Diaries. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to And Then What, the segment where we break down the headlines and figure out what the hell's happened since then. So often these days, we get to the headline, the big, bad, scary thing, but we never follow up or hear about how we can help or why this happened, because the rest of the world has already moved on. We were sitting around talking, and we thought, wouldn't it be nice if that existed? And then we realized that the someone who would probably make that happen was us. Simply put, we're going to chase down headlines once a month from the outdoor world that caught all of our attention, and then bring in an expert to break it down and find out what's happened since then. In the end, we hope we can give you a way to act. Thanks to our Diaries Plus members who are making this kind of work possible, not just for them, but for all of us. Thank you. So today we're going to dive into the Valentine's Day Massacre with Tanya Lown Hecht, VP of Strategy and Communications for the Outdoor Alliance, which represents climbers, skiers, mountain bikers, kayakers, and slews of passionate outdoor people in Washington, D.C. They've been pivotal in supporting public lands at the federal level. Tanya, I think a lot of us have come to know it as Valentine's Day Massacre. In February, as part of the DOGE initiative, the Trump administration laid off 2,300 Department of Interior employees which included Park Service and Bureau of Land Management. The Forest Service lost 3,400 positions, almost 10% of its workforce. That was after the fork in the road emails, which gave people the option to kind of leave quietly. What has happened since those initial headlines?
I mean, it's been a pretty wild time. So basically, since that time, there has been a lot of blowback on the administration, and courts halted a bunch of the layoffs. But from what we can gather, about 10% was laid off. A lot of that was in recreation, maybe half of those folks. So people who maintain campgrounds, trail maintenance, the folks that are working at the booths, seasonal workers, backcountry rangers, search and rescue. You're talking about the people who process your permit, and a lot of folks that do fire stuff, folks who are hired through a special hiring process like veterans. They got rid of all those folks. So all across the board. What happened after that is like several courts determined that it was not legal the way that the administration went after these layoffs, and they temporarily reinstated many of these workers, not all of them, but many of them were temporarily reinstated. A lot of those workers were immediately put on administrative leave. So it's not like folks are really back. The fact of the matter is the administration has not changed its position on wanting to reduce the workforce. And now it's pursuing this reduction in force, the RIF, where they've told the agencies you have to reduce payroll by 30%. Those plans for reduction in force were due to the administration in mid-March, and they're supposed to be enacted by mid-April. So there are plans for deeper cuts. There's been some good news, right? Like at the Park Service, for example, they've authorized 6,000 or 7,000 seasonal workers to come back. A bunch of Republican members actually went to the administration and said, like, hey, I have a park in my district. This is really important. Please make sure we can hire folks back. So they're trying to like get those folks back on board. But at the BLM, at the Forest Service, and also at the Park Service, they're still planning to lay off a lot of folks.
Public lands are one of the most reliably nonpartisan issues out there. What impact did the public outcry, did people calling their representatives, calling their elected officials have on reversing the course on some of these firings?
People's voices mattered a lot. We've been in DC all week with all of our executive directors and going around meeting with offices, meeting with the administration. And the thing we've heard repeatedly is how much the administration and members are really listening to what people are saying and listening to what narratives are being told about what's happening. They're looking at the press stories. They're looking at people's quotes. They're looking at constituents who are calling them and telling them stories, both to understand what's happening and to really figure out like what their next steps are. And I think the most important thing that the outdoor community is doing is reaching out and sharing really specifically what's going on and what the negative effects are. So if you know of negative effects that are happening or are going to happen on your national forest or a park near you, BLM land, if you work for the agencies or you did work for the agencies and you really understand what are the consequences, your voices are particularly important because articulating those consequences for what's happening makes it real for a lot of folks who are just like bureaucrats in DC who are like, yeah, let's just like cut the payroll, and they don't understand what is going to happen. And articulating those consequences is what is helping to move the needle in terms of getting folks rehired, stopping them from the kind of indiscriminate and chaotic cuts that were happening. The other thing is the administration really still has to care what Congress thinks, especially what Republican members think. And so if you have a Republican member of Congress, or even if your Republican member of Congress doesn't seem to care or be doing anything, hearing from you like makes a difference for them. It's not a waste of time. Keep doing it. There's not a ton of Republicans standing up saying, vocally don't do this, but we heard a lot about members going to the administration privately, speaking to them about public lands, about funding, about staffing. So it's definitely working. It sounds like discouraging to say this, but things are bad right now, but they're definitely going to get worse in the coming months. But I think core priorities is focus on what's irreversible. We got to keep public lands public. We put the line in the sand and make sure that irreversible stuff, losing big swaths of public lands, doesn't happen. That's not something that anyone wants. 80% of Americans are highly supportive of public lands, keeping public lands in public hands. We're hearing lots of different things about how serious members of Congress are about some privatization, some sell-off, some selling things off for housing, to pay for tax cuts for people who are in the top 1%. A lot of these conversations that are happening about public lands right now are seeing public lands as something that you could use to raise funds to pay for things in the government. And like there's a bunch of articles this week where they're discussing whether they'd include public lands as an offset to pay for tax cuts and spending.
So do we have the ability right now to maybe prevent that? Like instead of like having to respond once it's happened, is there ability if we raise our voices right now and say this stuff matters to us, it matters to our communities, is there a chance to actually stop it from ever happening?
Yes, absolutely. And that's when we have to do it. I mean, once they start selling these places off, you're not getting them back. So the time to act is now. The time is when lawmakers are walking around with this idea in their head. You say like, no, that's a bad idea. Don't do that under any circumstances. That is like the end of the line. Not to like toot our own horn too much, but Outdoor Alliance is a great organization to follow because we follow these issues really closely. We try to build out opportunities for people to take action when it's really meaningful, when it's relevant, when your voices are going to make a difference. We're trying not to blast people about everything, but about the really important stuff. We have this amazing tool that makes it really easy to write your members of Congress. I don't know if you've used it, Fitz, but it's like
I have.
You put in your address, so it will pull up who your members are. And there's a template message. You can like adjust it, make it personal and send it. It takes a minute or two. And that stuff really, really, really matters. Like it matters a lot more than you think. We've been going to offices all week and everyone is talking about how much they're hearing from their members, getting hundreds of letters on it. We're really stressed about it. Like that outreach is really working. Congress needs to hear that constituents are losing their mind about the thought that we might sell off public lands or that we're going to gut the agencies. This is a truly a bipartisan issue. And those positions aren't always reflected by elected officials. So it's important that folks with Republican members, folks that are Republicans themselves, like reach out and say, hey, I'm on board with all these other things. This is a red line issue for me. I want to see public lands stay public. If we raise our voices, we're really noisy, there's a big ruckus, it's not going to happen and we're going to protect it and it's going to go away. And it's going to be a lot easier to do it now than once the ball starts rolling down the hill.
So one of the things we wanted to do with this series is, we're diving in deeper to the headlines, but we also want to give everyone out there a way that they can participate, because I think that the reality is that we feel better when we can actually take action. One of the questions we've been fielding constantly is how do I stay up to date on what's happening? A lot of times we get this first headline and then we never hear what happens afterwards. What Tanya and OA are doing that's incredible is that they've built an email list that basically provides action alerts. So the moment something like the public firings happens, or earlier in April, there was actually a great instance where there was a chance to actually take public lands off the negotiating table for the budget in the Senate, and became very close to getting Republicans and Democrats to come together to stop that being part of the process. All that happens is because you can sign up for OA's action alert. I know it seems strange to be like, ask for another email, but like that's literally what we're hearing from people, is that they're like, I didn't know this was happening. I signed on to social media too late. This is the way you stay in the know. So go ahead, get signed up. The link is in the show notes. We'll have more updates for you in the future. Thanks for listening.